Hey, what's up, everybody? It's January 11th, 2023. And today I wanted to talk about a clip that was posted yesterday, I believe. Um, I think the full podcast might have been a few days ago, but basically it was a clip posted on the Patrick Bet David or the Valuetainment channel. I don't know. He's got a couple different channels. This guy Patrick Bet David. Um, uh, he's kind of a businessman turned podcaster, entertainer, I guess online you could say. I don't know a whole lot about Patrick Bet David. I know he was in the insurance business and has since sold that business. I think that's where he made most of his money. Um, so I've seen over the past year or so, I've seen a few clips of his podcast, and more recently, it seems like he's been getting some guests on there that are interesting and are people that are not necessarily aligned with how he thinks. Um, which I think sometimes makes for the best podcast is when you have a guest that is not, agreeing with everything that the host, says. So it makes for interesting debates and whatnot. So um, this clip is it's kind of long. It's like 25 minutes long. So I don't know that I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'll start from the beginning and kind of start there and see how that goes. But again, it's a clip with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is a famous astrophysicist. I'm sure most people know who he is. He's all over the place. Um, and I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he's very engaging and entertaining. And years ago, when I first um, heard about him, it was I don't know if it was through Joe Rogan or he's done a number of narrated series on the universe that are on Netflix and I'm sure a whole bunch of other platforms. So I think he's a pretty engaging dude, and he's obviously passionate about his expertise. But it's just interesting to hear people who are really intelligent talk about other things sometimes, maybe some more normal topics that don't require that specific expertise. So let me start playing this clip. I'll link this clip down below, 25 minutes long, if you'd like to watch it yourself here.
From what we knew at the beginning of COVID to what we know today, what do we know about the vaccine today that we didn't know while we were all testing it in America, taking it? What have we learned now?
What do you mean testing it on America? There were tests before it was released.
9 months is not a long time to test.
No, but it was tested.
Yeah, but 9 months, the average is 30, the average is 5 to 10 years. I mean, 9 months is not enough.
Okay, so you have to say,
test.
no, you have to ask, hold on. It was tested in trials, okay? By the way, I'm not claiming to be the expert on all this. I read all the same things you have, but I'm a scientist, so I read it as a scientist, okay? There were trials. That's what the point of phase 1, 2, 3 trials are all about. They are tested enough to get data on how to then advise the larger population. Yes, it was tested. For you to say it wasn't tested is a gap between your awareness and understanding how things work and what actually happened. It was tested. If you want it to be tested on millions of people instead of thousands, you can put in for that. You can say, I don't want this unless it's millions. That's okay.
Totally fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
So real quick, I just wanted to stop it right there. What he said about the fact that if you want a vaccine that's tested with millions of people versus a vaccine that is tested with thousands of people, and the fact that, hey, you can make that decision and choose to take the vaccine at the point that it's been tested on millions of people versus thousands of people. Well, the problem with that is when the vaccine did come out, depending on the industry that you're working in, you might not have been able to make that decision because you had to get the vaccine. I'm sure there's a number of people out there, millions of people probably in the US, who took the vaccine because their job required them to take it and might not have taken it if if their job did not require them to take it. So if you had a choice, I think that would be, ideal in my opinion. So let me play this again.
So based on that, do you say, let's keep testing it while the virus keeps spreading? Okay, right. So this is the contest between the information you have available to you at that moment and what's going on outside the lab. People are dying. Hospitals are becoming overloaded. So do you say we have good data on the 1,000? It's not yet at 1 million in case you wanted 1 million. Are you going to say, let's still do it let's wait another 6 months so we get another 1 million in here? Will you do that as a public health professional?
No, I would have said, allow the individual to still have a choice that's okay with 1,000 instead of a few million. Leave the person have the choice, not force him to take it or else you're going to get out of the Marines, and you've been doing this for 14 years. Not force him to take it or else you have to quit your job as a nurse.
There's a public health
force versus
there's a
choice.
There's a public health contract that you have signed implicitly as a citizen of a country where in part we depend on each other for health, our wealth, our security, and the like. And that contract is, in the best scientific evidence available at the time, if you do not get vaccinated, you will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. So with any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract. Is it your job? In some cases it was. But no, we're not going to have the army bust into your home and force a needle into your shoulder. That's not going to happen.
We pretty much did that.
Well, only
Okay, let me stop it before PBD replies, Patrick Bet David, just to say what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying there basically is you have a social contract, you have an obligation as a citizen of this country, of the United States, to take this vaccine, because if you do not take the vaccine, you might potentially be harming other people. Okay, so I can't remember the exact dates and timelines of everything, but as far as COVID goes, I can't remember how long it took until the vaccines were ready and available. I don't know how many months that was. I think it was under a year. I think they say it at some point in this podcast. But, me personally, I had COVID before the vaccines were ever out. And okay, so let's say you had not had COVID, and the vaccines come out, and you're somebody who absolutely wants that vaccine, and you think everybody else should also take the vaccine. Well, in my opinion, why would you not, if you want the vaccine, take that vaccine and you now are protected? What does it matter if somebody around you had not taken the vaccine or already contracted COVID and recovered naturally? What does it matter if they have taken it or not? You're protected. So I don't understand that argument of where you are somehow endangering someone else if you haven't taken the vaccine. I don't quite get that. We'll see how PBD Patrick Bet David replies to that here.
Job at risk, yes.
Yeah, 67% of Americans took the COVID. That's force. That's not a choice. That's a lot of force and coercing and pushing going on. But you can't go to the school unless you're vaccinated against mumps. I think that's bullshit.
That's a different country.
Yeah, but
okay, what you want a country?
No, America is supposed to be the one that offers the most freedom. That's what America is supposed to be.
Yeah, okay, so watch.
So for example, if you use that argument, somebody may say, well, freedom of choice, I want to choose what I want to do with the body. You're right.
What body?
If you want to get an abortion, it's your choice.
Your own body. Your own body.
If you want to get an abortion, get an abortion. If I want to get the vaccine, I get to choose. So you can't force If I can't force you to get an abortion, you shouldn't be able to force me to
Because
get
it's
the.
not about you. It's about people you interact with. And that's the social contract of public
But we
health.
don't even know if the vaccine worked or not at the time.
Yes, that's what the trials are, dude. That's why these trials.
Have
What, are you missing data out there?
But let me ask you a question. Are we saying only one type of scientists are right?
No, we're saying that the system in place.
The 16,000 that signed that.
No. The system in place to test vaccines. There's an entire system that's in place that with review board.
So I just want to stop it real quick and say, obviously modern medicine is amazing. I think most people would agree with that. And there's amazing things that are done to help people and save people's lives. But to act like there is no blemishes on the pharmaceutical industry or the medical industry in this country is fucking ridiculous. So I think you would be a fool, anyone, to blindly trust what your doctor or what somebody who's trying to prescribe you some medication is saying. Like in these days, you have to be somewhat skeptical. I'm not saying be a conspiracy theorist, but you have to be skeptical of what somebody is telling you that might permanently change your life, whether it's a surgery or a medication or whatever. So I think it's healthy to be a little bit skeptical. I'm not saying paranoid, but a little bit of skepticism is probably good.
And all of
Yeah,
this,
and the average.
that's in place. Now you can say, what you can say is, I have a better idea than all these review boards and all these agencies and the CDC. I have a better idea. Here's what you should do. And that would have made everything better. Okay, you can put forth that idea. But what I'm saying is, in a case where you can contaminate someone else, it's not about you. It's about the collective
You're assuming
health.
You're assuming because somebody can take the vaccine.
And I totally agree with that. Before the vaccines, with Neil deGrasse Tyson, like before the vaccines came out, I think everyone should have been doing everything they can to like as a younger person, stay away from people who are more vulnerable, like not being reckless. I think that's absolutely 100% accurate. Like you should have been doing hopefully everything you could have to not infect other people. But at a certain point, like you can't fucking bubble wrap the entire world. Like at a certain point, there are going to be some sort of risks involved in being alive. Um, like I could go out and I could get hit by a drunk driver and fucking die in a car crash. Now, does that mean the government should outlaw alcohol? I don't know. I guess you could debate that, but it's like I just don't understand the logic in if you think the vaccine is helpful for you and is going to protect you, then get it. But why force that on other people if you're already protected? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Won't get COVID, which, by the way, I don't need to play the clips for you to see it, where everybody said, hey, if you get it, you're not going to get, if you take the vaccine, you're not going to get a Rachel Maddow, Joe Biden. I can give you Fauci. I can give you fit. And you've seen these clips before. It's not like you've never seen it before.
Yeah, what happened?
They were wrong.
Hold on. So, the strain evolved, okay? So that the vaccine that prevented you from catching COVID was tuned to the variant of COVID at the time the vaccine was designed, okay? Over time, there were variants that arose. The vaccine provided partial protection against the new variants, enough to keep you from dying statistically, and to basically keep you out of the hospital, allowing other people with more severe problems to get the hospital attention they required. And so then they would develop the booster and a subsequent mixture of the vaccine. This is what happens every year with a flu shot. They look at how the flu has evolved from one season to the next. And what's fortunate is Australia tends to get the variant of flu before we do, because they get their winter in our summer. And then, so we study that. have a forward projection for it. So these annual flu shots are precisely out of the same idea of how this occurs.
How long have those been tested though? For years. COVID vaccine hasn't been tested for it. It was something we just came out. But
I don't know what point you're making, other than it was tested. You might
9 months is not enough.
You might prefer. No, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of how many. Yes, time matters, but the number of people is paramount. That's the most important thing. Okay, you don't test it on 10 people. You test it on as many people as you can.
Sure.
I think it was thousands, but
is it fair to say that some of the side effects we may not know for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? You can't, like, they can't say we know 100% the side effects 10 years from now. How are you going to know that?
Yeah. Okay. So no, of course we can't know.
So
that.
then all I'm saying is,
watch. You can't know that.
Okay.
But watch. So I have a whole chapter called Risk and Reward in the book, which tries to sensitize people to when they make a decision, what kind of risk are they absorbing relative to what they're rejecting? Okay. And we're not very good at that, at probability and statistics or analyzing. That's why TV commercials trying to sell you a product don't just show you data. They show a person speaking of the effectiveness of the product. A single person. I lost 50 pounds. The testimony of an individual should be irrelevant to you relative to the entire set of people who have done it. And you want to look at those statistics, but we're not good at that. And advertisers know that. So they show the testimony of an individual, which is hugely potent in a civilization where we don't think statistically, we think about eyewitness testimony on something. And somehow that is raised to a very high level of influence on our decisions. What I'm saying is, you're not, your decision point is not, I'm not going to take the virus because 5 years, 10 years, I don't know what effect it's going to have.
Some may though, some may not be comfortable.
Let me finish the sentence. Okay. So you can say, I don't want to take the virus because 5 or 10 years from now, there could be a side effect that we don't see.
Which is a possibility.
Hold on. I'm trying to make a statistical point here, okay? If you say, I don't want to take the virus because it hasn't been tested for 5 years and there could be some long-term side effect that worries me, okay? In that same moment, there's the risk factor of you getting COVID.
Sure.
Okay? Unvaccinated. At one point, 87% of everyone dying in the hospital of COVID was unvaccinated. Okay. So your risk choice is, I'm not going to take it because maybe somewhere down the line, something will happen and we don't know what that is. Or I will risk getting COVID. And if I get COVID, depending on your age and other things, there's a 3% chance of me dying in the hospital. That's your choice.
Okay, so he just threw out the number of, if I get COVID, there's a 3% chance of me dying in the hospital. I don't think that number is accurate at all. Obviously, the death rate was dependent on the comorbidities or how many comorbidities you had. So I think for a young, healthy individual, the potential, again, you can look this up, but the potential that the possibility that you would have died from getting COVID, I think was extremely low, like far less than 1%. So I don't know why he threw out that 3% number. I was going to say one more thing, but I totally blanked out on that. Sorry.
Yes. But what I see people doing is they focus on one thing, and that's the foundation of their decision, rather than the other chance. And what happens if you get COVID? Now you get long COVID. Now you don't have taste buds for 2 years or whatever it is for long COVID.
Yeah.
You're on a ventilator in the hospital, possibly dying. Like, where is the, so I looked every day, once a week, I looked at the statistics. How many people are getting COVID? What's the rate? What's the rate of hospitalization? What's the rate of deaths? Where is it by state?
I had to look at it. My board forced me to look. We're in the business that we have to
they
look at.
should,
Yeah, of course.
because it's data.
Yeah, I agree.
On risk factors.
The risk of people's lives.
Okay,
for sure.
So nothing is ever zero risk. Yeah, there's a risk that you'll grow a third arm in 10 years because the virus mutates within you.
Should the individual
Okay, I remember what I was going to comment on, because they're talking about risk assessment. So he's saying in this clip here that okay, yes, as an individual, when you're doing a risk assessment, I agree. If I was 80 years old and obese, um, and there was a high likelihood of me dying from potentially getting COVID, then yeah, I would have been first in line to get the vaccine. Or whatever. If I had some sort of immune system deficiency or whatever that made me more vulnerable, then yes, I agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, yes, I think in that risk assessment as an individual, you would want to get the vaccine. But again, if you're overall a healthy young individual, and like they have both admitted to in this podcast, uh, you don't know potential long-term side effects. So, especially for somebody like me, I already had COVID before the vaccine even came out. So, uh, in my own personal risk assessment for myself, to me, it was not worth it to get the vaccine. And I think a lot of other people, young people, had kind of that same opinion. So, anyways.
Individual not have the right to say, I don't want to take it because that's
You don't have the right to contaminate someone else. So if you don't want to get
Who
shot,
says that though? But who says that?
it's a social contract in a modern civilization.
I don't have
for public health.
I don't have the right to contaminate someone else. What do you mean? Like, so what do I do? Stay
It's-
home
well,
all day?
Yeah, or to go to the beach. Yeah, you stay away from other old people who
But
you stay away from people who are who are immune
But
compromised.
so Neil, so for me, I'm asking you because I want to know how you process this as a guy that's well read, smart.
I process the data, and the data.
But we didn't have enough data though.
No.
We didn't have enough data
At any given moment,
Yeah.
there's data for you to make a decision. At any given moment,
Sure.
the data is constantly getting better and better.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. At any given moment, you say to yourself, okay, what happens to me if I get COVID? There's a chance I'll get long COVID. I'm certainly out for at least a week. And there's a chance I'll be hospitalized. And there's a chance I'll die.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rent a car. 6. Rent the car.
Want to watch your videos without
Sorry. Okay, that's just like a commercial. I might just stop it there and not play through the whole thing. But anyways, you can finish the rest if you'd like. It's pretty interesting, interaction overall between these two. And at the end of the day, I think they were still both respectful. And like I said, I like those types of podcasts when you have two different people who have different opinions, kind of going back and forth. It's fun, when they can still keep it together and be respectful. So, I mean, I think obviously this whole COVID situation is still evolving all around the world. Who knows what will happen in the future? It'll be interesting to see, any sort of documentaries come out that kind of cover the whole topic, at least how it unfolded here in the U.S. But I just think at the end of the day, like, it's sad that the people that were probably affected the hardest by COVID were people who were not as financially stable or, as wealthy. Like if you were wealthy or extremely wealthy, and let's say you can make your own schedule or you're retired, you were probably affected a lot less than some other people who might have lost their job because their business closed down or whatever. So I think people should be a little bit more compassionate on the topic and just a little bit more reasonable overall, and not so quick to judge other people for the decisions that they made, because there's a lot of people that went through fucking hell through this time. So it's interesting now that online it seems like they're being a little bit more loose, at least on YouTube, with allowing people to discuss the vaccine and COVID and stuff like this. Like I feel like during COVID, they would have not have let a conversation like this happen. I don't think on the YouTube platform. I think they were pretty much kind of anything other than the CDC narrative, they were kind of um, silencing. So it's cool that they're at least allowing people to talk about it. Like I said, um I'll post down below that link if you'd like to watch the rest of it. It's interesting. And if anybody has any opinions, I'd like to hear them down below as far as if they took the vaccine or not and why. Um, I hope that yeah, we don't ever go back to another situation where it's a lockdown type situation. I know there's a lot of other countries that handled it in different ways. Um, so, like I said, again, it'd be interesting to see a documentary in the future that kind of covers how each country handled the situation. And like you look at China now, they were pretty much like on lockdown for years. They had that zero COVID policy, and they were basically welding people in their apartment buildings. And God knows, I don't know what really went on in that country, but now they seem to be loosening up restrictions and I guess, letting the virus go through the population. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that country. Um, Anyways, I think that's all I have to say on that topic. I probably forgot something, but again, just thought it was an interesting clip, and that's it for today. Peace. Thanks for watching.